Hello, everyone. Our today's discussion is all about the initial and final setting time of semen. For our objective in our today's lesson, for convenience, initial setting time is regarded as the time elapsed between the moments that the water is added to the semen to the time that the paste starts losing its plasticity. The final setting time is the time elapsed between the moment the water is added to the semen and the time when the paste has completely lost its plasticity and has attained sufficient firmness to resist certain definite pressure. The temperature of molding, room, dry materials, and water should be maintained at 27 plus or minus 2 degrees Celsius. The relative humidity of the laboratory should be 65 plus or minus 5%. As we can see in the figure, we have our digital weighing balance, wherein on balance in use, the permissible variation at a load of 1 kilogram or 1,000 grams shall be plus or minus 1.0 grams. The permissible variation on new balance shall be one half of this value. The sensibility reciprocal shall be not greater than twice the permissible variation. Another apparatus that we have is our BICAT apparatus. BICAT apparatus should conform to IS 5513-1976. It consists of an arrangement to hold the flanger of 10 millimeter diameter and two water needles which are made to freely fall into a mold filled with the cement paste and the amount of penetration of the needles of lander can be noted using the vertical graduations from 0 to 50 millimeters. We also need to use a stopwatch to measure the time. And of course, we have the trowel, conforming to IS 186-1982 in our figure number 4. And for our references that we have to use, IS 4031, Part 5, 1988, Methods of Physical Test for Hydraulic Cement, Determination of Initial and Final Setting Times, reaffirmed May 2014. This is for our reference. Let us have now the preparation of our test block. Prepare a neat cement paste by gauging the cement with 0.85 times the water required to keep a paste of standard consistency. Potable or distilled water, meaning not contaminated, shall be used in preparing the paste. The paste shall be gauged in the manner and under the conditions prescribed. IS 4031, Part 4 of 1988. Start stopwatch at the instant when water is added to the cement. Fill the bicut mold with the cement paste, gauge as above. The mold resting on a non-porous plate. Fill the mold completely and smooth off the surface of the paste, making it level with the top of the mold. The cement block thus prepared in the mold is the test block. Immediately after molding, place the test block in the moist, closet or moist room and allow it to remain there except when determinations of time of setting are being made. Now let us have the determination of initial setting time. Place the test block confined in the mold and resting on the non-porous plate. Under the rod bearing the needle C, lower the needle gently until it comes in contact with the surface of the test block and quickly release it, allowing it to penetrate into the test block In the beginning, the needle will completely pierce the test block and erase our figure as shown below. Just try to imagine more about step number 1 in the determination of initial setting time given our figure. For the second step, repeat this procedure until the needle, when brought in contact with the test block and released as described above, fails to pierce the block beyond 5.0 plus or minus 0.5 millimeter measured from the top of the mold. The period elapsing between the time and when water is added to the cement and the time at which the needle fails to pierce the test block to a point of 5 plus or minus 0.5 millimeters measured from the bottom of the mold should be the initial setting time. Determination of final setting time. Replace the needle C of the bicut apparatus by the needle with an annular attachment F. The cement shall be considered as finally set when, upon applying the needle gently to the surface of the test block, the needle makes an impression thereon, while the attachment fails to do so. The period elapsing between the time when water is added to the cement and the time at which the needle makes an impression on the surface of test block, while the attachment fails to do so, shall be the final setting time. In the event of a scum forming on the surface of the test block, use the underside of the block for the determination. And for our observation and recording process, we have to record the following: the weight of the given sample of cement in grams, and of course, the volume of water added. It must be 0.85 times the water required to give a paste of standard consistency. For preparation of test block, it should be in milliliters. The normal consistency of a given sample of cement must be written in percent as result. As we can see in the table, we have numbers 1, 2, 3, and we have the second column for the setting time in terms of seconds and the penetration in measurement of millimeters. Table 1 represents the initial and final setting time of cement. And for our conclusion or result, the initial setting time of cement sample is found to be, shall be reported to the nearest 5 minutes. The final setting time of the cement sample is found to be, shall be reported to the nearest 5 minutes. And that's all for today. Thank you and God bless.